Congratulations also to Josh Taylor in destroying Kong Song of Thailand with a body shot. Gogue, and this brings me to our next topic. Bob Arum, after having to go through this, he and Frank Warren both, they weren't very happy. Putting off the Jose Ramirez fight for this, right? Because basically the only reason why they, didn't go right into the Jose Ramirez fight because both fighters had to take care of their mandatories, right? So this is what Bob Arum had to say about, the very overmatched Kong Song being knocked out in the first round by a body shot. It's an effing disgrace. A disgrace, I tell you. I'm not taking any grief. I will wage a public battle. I'm not going to allow a business that I've been in the boxing business for over 50 years, to be destroyed by these organizations that put these ridiculous mismatches and make them mandatories, wasting our time and our money. It wasn't spectacular. The poor guy, a minute later, he might have gotten killed. This guy should have never been in with a world-class fighter like Josh Taylor. End quote. Gogue, I can't disagree with anything that he's saying. Your thoughts on how bad this is becoming, and as a result, the sanctioning organizations are really losing credibility.
Joe, like I said last week, I've never seen a Thai fighter over 118 pounds that can fight. I never seen this guy fight before, but I knew, Joe. I knew this shit was going to happen, and that's what happened. It was a total waste of a TV date, and and a total waste of a title defense. It's just these sanctioning bodies. Oh, jeez. Oh, you know what I mean? Like I said, Joe, boxing is just filled with problems. You don't see that in UFC. That's why their product is so much cleaner. That's why it gets more widestream, mainstream press and acceptability by the fans. It's more acceptable by the masses. They like to watch it more. Boxing just, like I said, it's a fucked up sport. I mean, not a fucked up sport. It's a beautiful sport, but a fucked up business. And this is part of, this is just one of the many problems that boxing has, having that clown last night. I knew, Joe, it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Okay, they try to get fans excited and show some highlights of him, knocking out the mother bums he fought in Thailand. Joe, that's not going to fool me. Okay, I'm just going by, like I said, I've never seen I've never seen a Thai fighter over 118 pounds that can fight. And I was, like I said, I was 100%. I was going to be right, and I was.
Well, yeah, and because I had received some messages asking me why we didn't go over the Josh Taylor Kong Song fight, and I said, well, why? I said, and this is what I always try to encourage our listeners to do, fans of boxing. Guys, if you're wondering whether or not a fight is going to be competitive, look at the race in sports books. This is one of the reasons why we always stress the odds on this show. Look at your races in sports books, and that the odds, the betting line, the handicap betting odds, that tells you everything you need to know about the fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was no doubt in our minds that the most competitive and best fight of the evening last night was going to be Jermall Charlo versus Sergey Derevyanchenko. And, boy, and Harvey Dock did a great job of staying out of the way, making his presence just as minimal as possible, and allowing these guys to settle their business in the ring like men. And it was a great fight. And that was pretty much an even money fight. Regardless of what the judges saw, that was a very evenly matched and closely competitive fight. And I loved every second of it. I thought it was a tremendous fight, and it told us a lot about, both men. Very quickly, going back to that, Gogue, what's next for Sergey Derevyanchenko? Because we forgot to discuss where he goes from here at age 34.
His manager, Keith Conley, mentioned something on Twitter that he wants to move him down to 154 if he can do it. If he can make that weight and be strong like he is at 160, that'd be the best thing for him. Win a title before he retires. But God, dog, Joe, on his comeback at 154, he deserves a softie. Okay, he deserves a Brandon Figueroa type of opponent. Okay, you know what I mean? Nah, look at all the tough Jacobs, Charlo, back to back.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, he deserves a softie like Brandon Figueroa been getting, since his career started. Okay, and let him get used to, let him get a good one fight, 2 fights, whatever, to get used to fighting in that 154-pound division. Then you got a fighter. Then you could make a case to fight his brother, Jermell Charlo.
Indeed. Well, it's going to be interesting to see actually what his handlers decide to do with, see if he's the same and isn't depleted or is just as strong at 154 pounds. Best of luck. But yeah, let's go back to the solution for some of these mandatory. Gogue, I think what's wrong is that there has to be better or different measures that these sanctioning organizations take in determining these rankings. And to give you an indication, fans, as to how these rankings are made, Gogue, can you please share us, we're begging you, please share us that Don King story that you experienced several years ago.
Oh, back then, Don was a man in boxing. He had the power because he had Tyson, he had Chavez, okay? And he was in tight with all the sanctioning bodies, BA, BC, and IBF. He didn't really fuck with the WBO a lot because they were just a new organization coming in. They didn't have a lot of credibility in the American market. In the English market, yeah, but not in the American market. Hell, man. Whoever he wanted, every fighter he signed, all he did was call Jose Suleiman, Bob Lee, or Mendoza, and he got his guys ranked. It was that easy,
Yeah, that's what, and that's exactly what Emmanuel was telling me about his fighters. He said if he wanted any of his guys to be ranked with the WBO, all he'd have to do was call up and have a discussion with Paco. That's it.
I remember, do you want to ask one story? I had a fighter, before Don signed him, it was in Sacramento. What happened was when Oliver McCall fought Lennox Lewis. Well, Don was in town, of course, and we met up with him, me and the fighter, and he goes, "Let's go out to eat." I said, "No problem." So he took us out to Morton Steakhouse. There was a bunch of us: Suleiman, Sterling McPherson. Who was my guy that got me those big fights with King and everything, and we went out to Morton Steakhouse and everything, and Don was telling Suleiman, Jose, I'm going to sign this guy, boy, you know what I mean? This is the guy, boy, it's going to be my next star and all that and everything. Hell, man. He was rated number 30th in the world. He was rated number 30th by the WBC. After that meeting, I saw the rankings come out a month later. He was ranked number 7 after that. Okay? Yeah. And didn't fight nobody. Yeah, just that meeting with Suleiman and just that dinner we had. Don telling him, the next thing you know, man, you know what I mean? He got my guy ranked from 30th all the way to number 7 and didn't fight nobody. Then back I remember in the office one day and he was talking to Bob Lee, telling him, he's just signed, this guy. I don't want to mention the guy's name, okay, but he just signed this guy and this guy's a hurricane. You're gonna want to. You got to get him ranked. Well, he did. He never was ranked in the IBF, not even the top 30. You got him ranked number 7. Yeah. So that's how, rankings are just, it's political. It's who you know. Now, is it illegal? Oh, absolutely no. There's no rules and regulations. It's like the Wild West and everything, okay?
They make the rules.
It's politically connected, okay? That's the key. I've seen a lot of guys, man, that should be ranked in the top 10, but they're not because they're not politically connected. So, back then, King was a man, okay? He had the juice, him and Danny Jameson. They could call any sanctioning body and get their fighters ranked in the top 10 if you sign with them. I'm just being honest. I've had 3 guys with King, and they all got ranked. When they as soon as they signed with Don, they got ranked.
And guys, that's the God's honest truth. And so I pose this question for you, Gogue. should promoters, networks, and fighters start ignoring the Big Four primary sanctioning organizations and all of their bylaws and schedule matchups solely on the transnational boxing rankings as well as the Ring Magazine's pecking order and just pretty much hold that lineal world championship under the most, I guess, under the highest regard?
Joe, TV networks dictate. TV networks are the real promoters. They dictate who the hell fights on their network, okay? All right, and they could put a squash to all this crap. All they got to do is say, no, we're not going to do it. You know what I mean? And the sanctioning bodies are going to get in line because they're going to, they're in it to make their 3%. They're going to get, they're going to say, okay, okay, whatever you want, we'll do what you say. You know what I mean? But the TV networks and they let them get away with this crap. Like that WBA and all this. 4 or 5 world champions in one division. Oh, that's sickening, man. Just sickening. And every single one of them guys think they're a world champion once they win their belt. You know what I mean? No disrespect to them, but you know what I mean? They're not world champions. There's only one world champion out there in each weight division, not 4 guys. And, but the TV networks and the promoters, they put on this shit and, and they try to sell it like a title fight. Give me a fucking break, man. It just destroys any credibility that boxing has when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Gogue, it's insulting to the fans. Like we don't know any better. It's insulting, Gogue, and it really waters down the product.
Yep.
But, yeah, in my opinion, and to be honest with you, I love the idea that these fighters, like what we saw last night, fighters are looking forward to unification. We've got another one coming up next year, and it's the big one. If Tyson Fury is successful in defending his title against Deontay Wilder, boy, he's got to be taking on Anthony Joshua. I love the idea that these fighters are looking to unify the weight divisions because that's what we need. Like, we need to recognize one champion. Or what do you think about this, Gogue? Mike Tyson mentioned this several years ago, right? He said, and kind of what happened with him and how he became a lineal and unified world champion, undisputed, right? They had a tournament with all 4 champions winning the titles, and then they had them face each other in the heavyweight division to determine the undisputed champion. And then after that, he said, you should have that tournament every couple of years in every division, and as soon as you win that, well, the winner is just escalated to the ring champion and relinquishes all the other titles, and you start all over. What do you think of that idea? That's something that Tyson mentioned.
What I would do if I was a TV executive and I had the juice, I'd get, I would, if you try to, if you're a promoter and you try to offer me a fight, for the WBA regular title, some bullshit, I would, oh, thank you. That's what you do. You gotta nip it in the bud, okay?
No, thanks.
Yeah.
That's
ridiculous,
the solution, Gogue. That's the solution. Quit entertaining, and quit taking these sanctioning organizations as seriously as they do currently. But I tell you what,
promoters too. Promoters like
as well.
Boy, they have their fighters fight for all that shit.
They're the ones who sell the bouts to the networks, Gogue.
Yeah, they should cut that shit out too. So it ain't the networks. The network people don't know what the hell's going on. It's them damn, it's a promoter. Don't do that shit. He did it with that Franco. Okay, that was a rare case, and Maloney when they fought. But he usually follows the guidelines of the old school. You know what I mean? None of this super champion, regular champion, and all that other shit. That's why he works with the WBO a majority of the time with his fighters because they don't do that stuff. They don't have all those multiple champions in one division. The IBF either. Okay, them are probably the only 2 organizations in boxing that don't play that bullshit. That watered down theory they used in creating all those belts and everything. But Arum, you can see he don't do that with his fighters. But the other promoters like Heyman and Golden Boy, they do that crap, man. Joe, it's just sickening. I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why boxing has lost a lot of its credibility, man. You know what I mean? There's too many. Even Dame Lillard basketball player, Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
He even said, man, every time I watch boxing, everybody got on a belt. There's just too many champions out there. I'm about busted up. He said that on Twitter. You know, he sees it. You know what I mean? And he's not a boxing guy, but he's a boxing fan.
Yep. And the final thing I'm going to say from Arum, and this is another quote, and this is why. And obviously, Arum has to try and keep the network happy. But you're not going to keep them happy by putting on a subpar product like that. So this is what he had to say after the fight as well. He said, quote, "Of course that didn't get Taylor ready for Ramirez. It was a waste of time, a waste of money. And I can say, woe is me, because who paid for this? I did. But, you know, it really wasn't me. It was ESPN who was paying for it.
Yeah, they weren't happy.
We had to pay for it out of our budget with ESPN, and that's what pisses me off. What a waste. I remember other mandatory crap we've done over the years that was not good, but you guys have to write about it and embarrass these effing organizations." So he's basically leaving this to the forums and the writers to create that, ongoing story.
The awareness.
Right? Yep. That criticism.
Yeah, he's right. Arum's an old school promoter.
He is.
Yep. He's old school. He sees that shit. And you know what? He had to take money out of his budget, a big chunk, you know, just to satisfy that stupid mandatory last night. It was a effing joke, man. You know, a wasted TV date. And, you know, I understand how Arum feels. Now the WBO is trying to, you know, press that Jack Catterall. You know, he has to fight Jack Catterall before he fights Ramirez, you know, for the WBO belt. And I would tell the WBO, fuck you. You can have your belt back. You know what I mean? That's
my point. These fighters and these promoters need to start basically relinquishing these titles every single time they try to be too demanding and stand in the way of real progress and giving the fans, the real bosses of boxing, the fights they really want to see.
Yeah.
Because, Gogue, does any fan prefer to see Kubrat Pulev versus Anthony Joshua over AJ versus Fury?
Yeah, exactly. That's what the fans want to see. They don't want to see Kubrat Pulev. You know what I mean? So, Joe, fans want to see the best matchups, okay? Not second or third string, okay? And that's what the MMA with that UFC. Man, they got some very pretty damn competitive fights in there, okay, when they put them on. Everybody's in there 50-50 fights. There ain't no 70-30 fights like Brandon Figueroa's fight last night. There were some good scraps I heard last night. Or it's like that all the time I hear. You know, I don't watch that.
Indeed.
I don't watch that. It's just what.
Yeah, like I said, boxing would be wise to look at the product that Dana White has put together. Again, and it's not perfect, guys. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but everything that he does well and the UFC does well, how they've trained their clientele. Because one thing I've noticed, and one thing that Lee Cleveland and I discussed on our Friday show, but you never hear any UFC fans complaining about paying $75 for every event.
Because you know they're going to get their money's worth.
You never hear them complain about that money. That's right, because they get their money's worth. So once again, boxing would be wise to look at the tempo, the pace, and you never see an hour-and-a-half long intermission between fights during a UFC event.
Another thing, Joe.
Go ahead,
UFC is past boxing. I hate to say that. They passed boxing. Because
in America they sure have. Yep.
Yeah, all you got to do is look at ESPN and how much love they give to how much publicity, how much press they give to to their fights coming up all the time. And look, during that pay-per-view, that first pay-per-view they did during the pandemic, they did 1 million fucking buys. Unbelievable.
1.3 million.
Okay?
That's right.
So
I mean, think about this, Gogue. 1.3 million. Okay, so you had UFC fans paying at least $65 for that event. Okay, you had more paying UFC customers watch that event than people tuned in for free to watch the last fight card on Fox, flagship, free TV Fox.